everyone, and welcome to Genre Flip. I'm Ben.
And I'm Erik.
And Genre Flip is a podcast where we take a movie of a clear genre and flip it around to see if it still works in a different genre.
That's right. And this week we're taking the mystery thriller 10 Cloverfield Lane and going to try and flip it around and turn it into a Disney Channel original movie.
So I think that this movie is going to be one of our more difficult switches, just because this movie, it works so well because of her being in like constant danger and her just basically fearing for her life throughout almost the entire movie, which is like the total opposite of what the typical Disney Channel original movie is going for. They're going for like the upbeat, like, yeah, you can do it as long as you believe in yourself kind of thing.
They're all just full of like snarky kids standing up to grown-ups. Like, guess what? I can live in this world too. My ideas are just as good.
So let's go ahead and get things started by mapping out the 10 Cloverfield Lane movie, seeing the elements that we want to make sure that we keep, so that whenever we jump into the genre flip, that we'll be ready to go. I've got the Google Doc up and going, and we are ready to dive into the plot analysis of this movie. Erik, go ahead and start us off.
Cool. Well, right at the beginning, we get to meet Michelle. We don't know too much about her circumstances here. She's packing up all of her belongings in an apartment. We get quick glimpses of it. We can see like drawings on the wall. We can kind of get the sense that she is a fashion designer or designs clothes.
I totally did not even notice that until she points it out way later in the movie. I was just like, she's packing up clothes. She must be upset and is ready to go now.
Yeah, she's in a frantic hurry to get out of her apartment. And I can't remember if I noticed the clothing designs my first time watching the movie in theaters, but I definitely picked up on it this time, given that I've seen it a few times.
Right.
But anyway, she's leaving her apartment. She's packing up in a rush. She stops at a gas station. There's somebody creepy watching her. She's driving away. She gets a call from her boyfriend or potentially ex-boyfriend.
Yeah,
saying
his
like,
name
hey,
is
you
Ben.
can't just...
What kind of an asshole
Ben.
has a name like Ben? God.
Ugh, can't stand that name, am I right? But he calls her. He's like, you can't just run away like this. And it's like, oh, okay, she's running away from her boyfriend for whatever reason. And then, all of a sudden, a truck tries to pass her on a highway and just smashes right into her. Huge car crash. Next thing we know, she wakes up in this disgusting-looking concrete room.
Yeah, so here's the thing about this movie, kind of jumping ahead a little bit here. Howard is obviously the person that that has locked her up in this room. Her leg is like locked up there, as well as she's like got an IV in it, and it's just a very creepy looking room, as you mentioned. I feel like Howard is going about this whole approach in a like the most wrong way possible. He could have been like, hey, look, like right off the back, he could have been like, look, you were in an accident. I saved you, and there was a massive thing that happened. This that caused you to not be able to go outside anymore, whether it be like a biochemical attack or something. We can't go outside anymore or you will die, but you're welcome to stay down here with me because I've got Emmett, he's also down here with us. I don't know, I feel like if he had said like things and tried to stay positive instead of being this like menacing asshole at the very beginning of the movie, things would have gotten a lot better for everybody.
That is true, but that's what he would have done had he been a rational human being.
Yeah.
And had he been a rational human being, he wouldn't have run her off the road in the first place and kidnapped her to fulfill the role of his daughter who went away. Which we can talk more about that later. But yeah, he's a fucking creep, like super creepy throughout this entire movie. You never know what his true intentions are. And I think the movie works mostly because of that. Because you never know what he's going to do next, what he's capable of.
Yeah, and at the very end, we still don't really know if he was a good guy or a bad guy. I mean, he is kind of a bad guy, but like the way that the movie ends, it kind of makes it seem like she would have been better off if she actually hadn't done any of the shit that she did.
Well, he's one of those crazy conspiracy theorists who turned out to
be right all along.
Be correct. Yeah. But I mean, he was right about some sort of like alien invasion, some sort of bioweapons, But obviously, he's not right in any of the
Oh,
other things that he does,
yeah,
like the way
absolutely.
he acts towards other people. But yeah, I get
So
what you mean.
yeah, but so anyway, she eventually like accepts her life in the bunker, and I think that this is where we should gain our first element that we're going to use for the genre flip here, in that the main character needs to be trapped in a space, right?
Yeah, she's fairly isolated. She's trapped in a smallish space against her own will, and there are people around her, and she doesn't know their true intentions. I feel like that's a good start. Oh,
Perfect.
and write down that she needs to be very resourceful. I feel like that is absolutely key to a movie like this.
Oh yeah. Speaking of resources, she isn't 100% sure if the outside is actually poisonous, despite the fact that she saw a woman who clearly had some like welts or like some sort of like weird disease, like weird
Peeling
growth.
skin.
Yeah, going on her skin, which is clear that she has been poisoned in some way. So she and Emmett gather together to be able to build this suit to be able to travel outside to be able to get help, kind of thing.
Right. They come up with a really clever way to get the shower curtain so that they can fashion that into the base of the suit, I guess.
Right.
In that they kind of hint to Howard, like, hey, that shower might be contaminated.
Yeah.
Might want to think about that. And he ends up throwing it away, and they're able to retrieve it.
Yeah.
I love that duck shower curtain, too.
Yeah, that is
It's
great. I
cute.
wonder if they sell that online anywhere. I'm gonna look that up right now. Cloverfield Lane duck shower curtain. Maybe if we can look this up on Google, maybe we can find a.
I would get that as a shower curtain.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's for sale anywhere. Shopping. Here we go. Yeah, dude, you can get this.
Hell yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How
You
much
can
is
also
it?
get it in other things. You can get it on throw pillows. You can get it on notebooks. Um,
We are
and
not sponsored by Duck Shower Curtain.
no, yeah. But it looks like you can get it quite a few different things. Looks. Oh wow, that is way too expensive. Never mind. It's like $86.
For what? The shower
The
curtain?
shower curtain, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'll take the $10 one that I get at the store. Anyway, so we've got that the main character is trapped in a space against her own will. She needs to be resourceful, and there needs to be like something off about the antagonist of the movie.
Yeah. It's got to be somebody who, I'm assuming, if we're turning this into a Disney Channel original movie, it's got to be somebody who she doesn't fear at first, but over time she senses that his motivations are off, that he has some sort of ulterior motive. This
Right.
feels kind of Harry Pottery.
Yeah.
Like, oh, poor stuttering Professor Quirrell. What could he ever do?
Oh man, and I feel like John Goodman would have been an amazing character in Harry Potter. Honestly, John Goodman would be amazing in pretty much any role. I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he
There,
does.
there are certain bad movies he's in, and he's the only bearable part of them.
Well, he's the only bearable part of Roseanne. Woof, that is
True.
awful. But so I mean, like the things that he does that's bad. So like, let's dive into the relationship with his daughter a little bit here. So he keeps on talking about Maggie and how Maggie loved Teen Magazine and how
Wasn't it Megan?
Was it Megan? Okay, so it's Megan.
I think it was Megan.
I remember it was an M name, but since the girl's name is Michelle, I just was totally lost. Anyway, so
Right.
Megan loves Teen Magazine, and he talks about her all the time. Clearly loves his daughter, but he did something to make her go away. And so he kidnaps this other girl to replace his daughter, but basically, takes her captive, and we don't really know what happened to her after that. We can just assume, what, did she get killed in that barrel of acid?
Well, his original daughter, he says that his ex-wife took her away to, I think, Chicago? Somewhere far away from where they are. And it wouldn't surprise me if that actually were true. And ever since then, he's been kidnapping other girls around the same age and trying to have them, be there in place of his missing daughter.
Yeah.
So like I don't know what happened. I hope Megan is okay
Yeah, I
wherever
hope
she's
so.
living. But I feel awful for the various girls he's kidnapped and forced to live there with him. Like the
Yeah.
one high school girl who Emmett recognizes, and he's like, "Oh shit, she went to my high school and she disappeared
Yeah.
for a few years. Nobody knows what happened to
The
her."
only thing that we know that happened to her is that she was in a photo with him, like on the couch, looking clearly uncomfortable. With
Right.
Howard, I mean, with John Goodman, and then she also managed to get into the airlock and try to escape through the
Yeah.
hatch using her earring by clawing for help on there, which obviously no one ever finds until Michelle ends up seeing it a little bit later on in the movie.
Right.
But let's dive into Emmett's character a little bit here. I'm thinking that this our genre flip has to have the same number of characters. I'm thinking that it's still got to have like our main character can still be a girl, but I'm thinking a little bit younger for the genre flip, just because
Yeah.
Disney Channel original movies typically don't lend themselves to 20 somethings, more so to the younger crowd.
Yeah. Preteen, early teenage
Yeah.
years.
We've got that they need to be resourceful. We've got that there needs to be something really off about the antagonist who is keeping them there against their will. And now we've got this Emmett character. Let's describe Emmett's character a little bit here so we can figure out exactly the things that we want to make sure that we get down on this mapping out process.
Okay. Well, in Cloverfield Lane, Emmett is pretty young. He's like a college student right now, I guess. And he was helping Howard build this bunker for a few years up until he realized that, oh shit, something crazy is going on outside. There actually is some sort of big attack. He doesn't know what it is, so he hurries towards the bunker and Howard lets him in. So all we really know about him is that he's young. He helped Howard build the bunker so he could like kind of know his way around a little bit. And he has, he's got a sense of humor. He's lighthearted. He tries to ease the tension a lot of the time.
Okay.
He's willing to take the blame. He's willing to self-sacrifice.
Oh, yeah. And that was just, total
Yeah.
bummer. I would not
That-
have done that.
Yeah, that moment really solidifies Howard as the antagonist. Like, no
yeah.
matter what the fuck is outside, Howard is the bad guy here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Howard's the bad guy because obviously, ultimately, he kills Emmett because Emmett said that despite the reason why they had the tape and the scissors was so that they could make a suit, he says that he stole the tape and scissors so that he could use them to get Howard's gun for some reason, so that
He was trying to build a weapon to get Howard's gun.
I don't know. I don't. Would it have been a bad thing for them to tell Howard that they were building a suit? You could have spun it in a positive way. You could have been like,
Well, I'm sure that if they told him that, he would just be on the lookout for that suit.
yeah, but I mean,
He does find it.
yeah. Well, ultimately, yes, he does. But I mean, you could have said it to him in such a way that it's just like, hey, look, Howard, here's what we were planning on doing. We don't know what's going on out there, and we have the resources to be able to build a suit that allows us to be able to go outside without like any issues. We thought, we could check out what's going on out there just to see what's going on. Howard, I guess you're right. I mean, I guess it probably was for the best that
I
they
feel
didn't
like
do that.
no
'cause
matter what their explanation was,
Howard
so
was gonna
pissed
kill
that they were
somebody.
hiding. Yeah, they were hiding something from him, and he's pissed off about that because he needs to be in charge of this situation no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, somebody was going to die there. He
Yeah.
was going to take out his frustration in some sort of violent manner.
Does Emmett need to have a broken arm in this movie? Because he has a broken arm throughout the entire movie.
He could, not necessarily. How much
Yeah.
does that really play into?
I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to think because ultimately we want this to be a different movie. We don't want to make the exact same movie over again. And I feel like Emmett's character really lends itself to the exact plot of the movie because like making him be a character that that builds the bunker, that knows that something terrible is happening outside, and that ultimately makes the sacrifice to die are not really things that are going to really play well into this genre flip, in my opinion, because it makes it seem like, first of all, we have to have a bunker. It can't be any other space. I mean, I guess he could be like a construction worker. I don't know.
I feel like he should be the same age as Michelle, so like, I don't know, 12, 13 is what I'm thinking. So he's got to be around that same age. He's got to find himself in similar circumstances where he and Michelle both get there via the same means. I think the only things that we should keep about his character, the only traits, are that he's lighthearted and he does his best to ease the tension. He's a good friend in general.
All right.
Like, he just backs up Michelle with whatever she wants to do once they, take a liking to each other.
All right, so I've got that he's the same age as Michelle, and that he knows a lot about the space that they're both trapped in. I feel like that kind of is all-encompassing for the utilities of his character. Okay. And then he's, similar to the character in 10 Cloverfield Lane, lighthearted, tries to ease tension, good friend. Cool.
Okay.
What else do you feel like
good.
we need to make sure that we keep from 10 Cloverfield Lane? So ultimately,
have we written specifics about Michelle's character?
We just know that she needs to be very resourceful, and she obviously is trapped in this space against her will. So we know that she's uncomfortable in the area.
I don't think that,
at least,
given that we're making it into a Disney Channel original movie, I think like at the beginning it can be her choice to go into this isolated environment. But then over time, she wants to get out and realizes that there's no way out.
Okay.
So she desperately wants to find a way.
Sure.
Just because I was thinking about like how, if right off the bat they don't want to be there, I mean, it could work in a Disney Channel movie, but I feel like that might be a little too similar to 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Okay.
Or switch it around a bit.
Well, ultimately, I feel like there needs to be a struggle with the antagonist. That ultimately ends up with the main character escaping.
Right. The building of tension across the second and third act until it finally escalates to, boom, the point of no return.
Yeah. Dude, so I'm curious what your thoughts were before we jump into the actual genre flip here of the ending of this movie. Like, holy shit, this is a pretty, it doesn't seem like this is a very high budget movie throughout the entirety of it, because I mean it's all in one space. It's
right.
I mean, it's got John Goodman, and I'm sure that he costs quite a bit, but it seems like everything is very contained into their universe inside the bunker. And then as soon as she gets out, it's like they were like, all right, we've got $5 million for this special effects budget. Let's pile as much as we can into a 2-minute scene to see what we can do here. Yeah. And it just goes fucking crazy.
I love that. Up until she actually is able to leave the bunker, there aren't too many like VFX heavy scenes. There's the car crash in the beginning, of course. There's various small things around the bunker, including like fire. When she like tips the thing of acid over and it lights on fire.
How Howard, like, his whole fucking half of his body melts.
Yeah.
Dude, it actually, like, in the final moments of Howard, I feel kind of bad for him because she's crawling away.
He's still trying to save her
and
from
he's
going
like,
up there.
no, it's dangerous out there. Stay with me, and we'll stay safe.
I don't know how much of that is like for his own selfish reasons, and how much is him genuinely trying to keep her from dying.
I feel like it has to be some of both. Probably more for his own selfish reasons, but I think he does realize that there's a problem out there, and she's not taking it as seriously as she should.
Yeah. I mean, if Howard was a much more stable human being and wasn't straight up kidnapping and murdering girls to take the place of his daughter, it would have been a nice gesture for him to take in some people into his bomb shelter. But clearly he is not that stable person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and ultimately he wanted it to just be himself alongside Michelle instead of having Emmett there. Because after he kills Emmett, he's like, this is the way that it always should have been. It should have just been you and me this whole time.
Right.
Which is the way that he wanted it. And you clearly, despite the fact that she's a 20-something person, he doesn't see her that way. He sees her as a little girl because of the charades game that they play earlier, where that makes it like he could not guess the word woman, based on Michelle. So anyway,
I love that scene where he's saying like, I watch you when you're sleeping.
I figured it out immediately that he was talking about Santa Claus. Like, it was so obvious.
So, like, it's either, if you don't know what he's talking about, it's a super tension-filled scene.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
do know what he's saying, it's still, like, full of tension, but it's also hilarious.
Oh gosh, I mean,
Great
it
scene.
is hilarious, but and it is creepy, but it was super obvious. I don't know why they were taking. I mean, obviously they were taking forever because the script told them that they needed to, and needed to
Well, I
build
mean,
tension of him
because,
being a scary character. But I
yeah,
don't
they're in
know.
the situation, they don't know what he's capable of, so if he starts saying that, and he's saying, like, I'm always watching, I know what you're up to, and he's also fucking screaming at them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, he's really getting into an evil Santa Claus character over here.
Oh gosh. So all right, well, I think we've got pretty much the map work laid out for this genre flip here. Main character trapped in a space against her own will. She needs to be resourceful to be able to get out. She's got her friend, sidekick guy, who's also trapped in this space with her. Needs to be lighthearted, a good friend, and to help ease the tension of the scary aspect of being trapped. Needs to be like an antagonist who is keeping them in this situation that there's something that's not quite right. There needs to be a struggle with the antagonist, and ultimately the heroes need to prevail, getting out. And this, of course, needs to be pretty lighthearted because it's a Disney Channel original movie.
There's got to be laughs.
All right, so
You got to be like, haha, Zach and Cody.
yeah,
You got
yeah.
me again.
Oh
I'm busting a
God,
gut over here.
barf. So they right off the bat here, I'm thinking there needs to not be a car accident that gets her trapped in the situation.
Oh,
I'm thinking it
yeah.
needs to be like more of a fun, like, yeah, we get to go do something cool kind of thing.
Right.
Like in
Oh, yeah, I've got a
Spy
plan
Kids
for
or
this.
something.
Spy Kids.
Well, yeah, I was thinking
Okay.
in Spy Kids, you know how they get to go into the mansion of the Oogly Boogles
Yeah.
with the thumbs or whatever you call them. I don't
They
remember.
get to become secret agents like their parents.
Yeah. So, all right, what's your idea for this?
Okay, well, here's my thought. It can be we get to see the daily life of Michelle. She's like 12 or 13, and she's always constantly annoyed at her parents. She's like 7th, 8th grade, something like that. She's constantly annoyed at them. She doesn't want to be around them. She just wants, time for herself. She wants to chill in her room and draw and read. And she's like kind of isolating herself. And she just wants to do that. She's a very introverted person.
Kind of like a Coraline type of character.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she finds out about this contest. There's some sort of like local billionaire, and he's using his money to like make these crazy inventions and things. And it's like a Willy Wonka type scenario. But the billionaire says that he's created this underground mansion, and it's got everything that a kid could want. And they just like, it's got, I don't know, like bowling alleys. I don't know what kids like. It's got laser tag. That's what I like. It's got all this video game stuff. It's got like all the movies and games that they could want, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, and he's like, and if you win this contest, you get to go down here, and it'll only be you, or it'll only be a few people, and you'll get to have this entire space to yourself for a year. And he's
As
doing like some kind of
lighthearted as I'm
experiment.
sure that this billionaire is by doing this, I feel like it's super creepy. Like a billionaire I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Like being like, I would love a little girl to come and enjoy this mansion alongside me. Just you, though, not your whole family.
Oh, absolutely. Like, there's creepy shit like that happens all the time in kids' movies, and like, as an adult, if you're watching it, you're like, wow, this this older gentleman is a total fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
He's just inviting these kids to come check out his chocolate factory, and many of them die as a result.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem quite cool. But anyway, I feel like it's enough of a setup for a kid's plot that I'm imagining this as like a kid's book, and if a kid reads it and they think like, oh my god, I could get away from my family, I could go live in an underground mansion with everything my heart desires, I can have hot fudge sundaes every single meal for a year, that sounds amazing. And I don't have to deal with my mom going, clean your room.
I'm thinking maybe for a year is a little too long. I'm thinking that the way that it should be phrased is for the summer, like as a summer trip. Maybe maybe it's advertised as a way to get a whole bunch of kids down there, but it turns out to just be 2 kids. that end up going instead of it being like a whole thing. So it seems like it's going to be like the girl is like begging her mom to let her go and do this so that multiple kids can, like, it's going to basically be the greatest summer of all time, the greatest summer vacation, getting to be away from your family, no rules, getting to play laser tag, staying up late eating ice cream, having a blast for like a 2-month period, and then you get to go home and, you know, get back to school, back to the old grind kind of deal.
Yeah, so it's like the ultimate summer camp.
Yeah,
where you
that's
get
what
to
I'm thinking.
Stay indoors the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would sound appealing to a lot of kids. So she applies for this and then like waits a little while, and then at some point she receives a letter in the mail that tells her like, oh shit, you've won. You get to go and be in this mansion.
Could you imagine if that was what it was in the Disney Channel movie? She just opens up the letter. It's got like the Disney postmark on it, despite the fact that it wouldn't have that. I know, since it's a Disney movie, I'm milking the Disney aspect of it. It opens it up and it just says, "Oh shit, you've won." Oh yeah, all right.
Oh shit. I'm thinking now with a letter that it's like Harry Potter, where all these letters start flying in, and her dad's trying to stop her because he wants her to stay at home and like do all of her chores, and he's like, no post on Sundays. And then a million letters fly in, and she grabs one. She's like, I've won the summer camp trip.
I've got a golden ticket.
Yeah. So against her parents' will, she's like, haha, you can't stop me, even though you're my parental guardians. And then she leaves. Somehow this is a universe where you don't need your parent or guardian's permission to go on this vacation.
Well, I think the reason why I'm saying that it's summer camp is that a parent would be okay to sign off on this. I mean, maybe even like the parents are like a little skittish at first, and they go and they take a tour of the place. You know, they get to see kind of like some of the facility, and and the billionaire himself will like walk the parents around, showing them around, and they're like, you know what, this would be cool. Have a whole bunch of kids coming out here for summer camp. I think this will be a great experience for our introverted little girl to get out.
What if they don't get to meet the billionaire? Like, nobody really even knows this billionaire. He's very secluded.
Okay.
And so when they go to take a tour, there's like a butler kind of, and he's like, when you live here, I will wait on your every whim. Whatever you need, I'll get it for you. If you want something from the outside world, I'll bring it to you. That kind of thing. So it's like, oh, this guy is like super nice and really chill, and he's like being cool to everybody, and he shows them the tour, and it feels like a great place. So her parents do agree, like, okay, well, it's only for a couple of months, and we know you really want to do this, but as soon as you get home, you got to do your chores double time. And she's like, whatever, Mom. So she just really wants this opportunity to get away from her family and chill in this underground bunker. But then, as the story progresses, I'm thinking that the butler is the only person who's down there with the kids. Yeah. And it's revealed at a certain point that this butler actually is the billionaire, and he has ulterior motives for keeping them down there.
So so we're at the point now where the girl is there, and it's just like the girl and the guy, and she's like, well, I thought there was going to be a whole bunch of other kids, and he was just like, oh, well, you know, you're the only one that won, so like kind of thing. And so she's like, okay, that's a little weird, but at least there's still laser tag.
He's like, there was a processing error, and you two were the only winners.
Yeah.
It just means you get more of the mansion to yourselves.
Yeah, and so
like,
they're
okay.
kind of like, yeah, they're like, oh, this is, you know, it would have been cool if there was like all my friends were here, or like if there was like 25 kids here. But I mean, I guess it's still cool. I mean, that's more ice cream for us, and you know, the roller coaster that's inside this place is only for us. There's no lines or whatever, you know.
Yeah. I think that would end up being even more appealing because Michelle is like, well, I kind of wanted to be the only one here anyway. Okay. And so she goes, and like when they first get here, it's got to be amazing to them.
Yeah.
So Michelle, like what she really wants is like a big library and a big like art studio so that she can like paint her clothing designs on the like canvases and stuff.
Are we gonna do the
So
clothing designs, or I feel like, I mean, as we mentioned in our mapping out session, that that she needs to be resourceful in some way. Ultimately,
right.
and we can skip this part and come back to it a little bit later. But ultimately, there needs to be a turning point where they realize that this is not as cool as they wanted it to be, and she needs to be resourceful in some way that's going to ultimately help them get out. Because in the world that we've created, this is not a world that's been taken over by aliens. This is just
Right.
the regular world that we live in. This is a situation where she needs to have something that's going to be useful to get them out of their
Okay.
situation.
Well, let's decide then what is the way that they need to take out of this mansion. Here's what I'm thinking. It's an underground mansion, and there is an elevator that they get into on like on the first floor above ground. So it's just like this inconspicuous like 10 foot by 10 foot little building with a door, and as soon as they open that door, you walk in and it's an elevator, and it brings you down like 5 floors, and then that's where the entrance to the mansion is. So there's no way that they can get out without taking this elevator up. But
Okay.
the elevator is programmed only to work whenever the butler is there with them.
Okay.
So, given that the butler doesn't want them to leave, obviously, because he's secretly the billionaire and has this ulterior motive, he won't allow them to do that. But they need to figure out a way to get into that elevator, and because they can't use it, they need to open like the hatch on the top of it, the security hatch, so they can get up and then climb up the rope.
Okay.
So Michelle could be like, she could be an aspiring gymnast. And so there could be like a room that's just like, it's got rock climbing walls, it's got ropes going up to the ceiling, it's got trampolines. And she essentially is going to like build up the upper body strength necessary to hoist herself up 5 floors worth of elevator wire.
All right, here's what I'm thinking. I think that we need to keep Emmett as a kid with a broken arm.
So he can't climb.
So he can't climb the rope with her, so that we can
Yeah.
follow her on the journey to be able to get out. Because ultimately, this is her movie. Like, this is her. She's the main
Oh, yeah.
character. Emma is just another character that happens to be in there with him or with her.
Yeah.
And so, everything's going amazing right now. They're riding the roller coasters nonstop. They're playing laser tag against each other. They're, eating all the ice cream they want. They're playing on the, on the rock climbing wall. Like, all this stuff is happening. But I'm thinking the entire time Emmett's arm has to have been broken, and maybe she asks him about it, or maybe she asks him, "Hey, how long have you been here?" And he tells her, "Oh, I've been here for I don't even know how long, as long as I can remember." And she's
There's no
like,
calendars down here. I kind of lost track.
and she was like, "I thought you said that, or I thought that the butler said this was just for the summer." And he was like, "No, this is a forever kind of thing. I mean, this is." I've been down here for years. I mean, I can't even remember not being in this place. And that's when I feel like she needs to start feeling like, that's not quite right. I need to be able to get back to my family.
I feel like he would react differently then to the presence of somebody else suddenly appearing down there.
Yeah, that's why he needs to be like super excited that she's here, and that's why they're going and doing all of these things, is because he's never had anybody to do them with him.
Okay. So he could have been like secretly adopted by the billionaire or something like that.
Okay.
And he's just put down there, or kidnapped. Either way.
I don't know. Let's see. I mean, yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
This might be kind of generic. We can change this. But here's what I'm thinking is that the billionaire desperately wants eternal youth. And he thinks that if he can get these kids down here, he's got the resources, and he's got like some secret rooms down there. And like while they're sleeping, maybe he like puts a needle in their arm and they're like put under some sort of sedative. So they're brought in and like all these experiments are being run on them while they're sleeping and they don't even know it.
I don't know.
So like they wake up in the
needle,
morning.
though. I'm just trying to think of this as kid friendly as possible. Yes, we can make the billionaire evil behind the scenes. So I'm thinking that he's got to have like a secret lab or whatever, and he's got to be like way over the top as the villain. Like we have to know right off the bat, like not right off the bat, but like we have to know.
It's got to
pretty
slowly
quickly.
be revealed. You've got to in the first experience with him where he's showing their parents around the mansion, he's got to be super friendly, totally cool, like trustworthy to parents. But then when it's just Michelle and Emmett down there, he slowly starts to peel away that facade and becomes a little bit creepy. Like, I keep thinking of Harry Potter because I just rewatched all those movies. I'm thinking of Snape in the first Harry Potter, where like he's standoffish and he's kind of mean, and even though he's not doing anything evil, it just leads Harry and friends to think that he's evil.
All right.
So like Michelle starts getting this weird feeling. Yeah.
What about he is constantly like dropping hints about how he wants to be young again? Well, he's like, oh, to be young and have the energy like that again.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, your skin is so soft and mine is so wrinkly, and I don't know. Like he's got to be like, like oh, to have. I'm thinking like he's got to be saying like constantly saying things that's like, oh, I wish that I could be your age, young and spry again like you. And it has to like that has to be ultimately, as you mentioned, that is his goal, is to become young again, to get his youthfulness back. But
so here's why he chose Michelle, because not only is she young and full of energy, but she's also very athletic.
Oh yeah.
And she'll go and constantly be doing rock climbing and climbing ropes and everything like that. And he wants that youthful energy.
Emmett was the first person that he chose for this experiment, but the experiment went wrong, and Emmett's arm broke. And he was like, shit, I can't just, send this kid home to his parents. I have to make everything fun. And so he like ups the ante, gets more roller coasters, gets more things, and he tries to make this kid happy because he's so young. He doesn't really know any better. And so the kid has been down here for a really long time.
Right.
I feel like this movie works as this really helps for Michelle to realize that he is, or that she is in a situation that is not what she expected.
Right. Maybe he won the contest the previous year, and then he was told that like once he had been in there for a couple of months, he was given the choice of, and like when he was in there at first, it's just super fun. There are no experiments being done on him or anything. He's just in there for a few months, and then he's given the opportunity to stay there for as long as he wants. And he's like, oh yeah, are you kidding me? This is awesome. So he stays there, and then that's when the weird shit starts to happen. And because he agreed to stay there, he can't get out now.
Yeah. Maybe he's like a foster kid.
Somebody else.
Maybe he's like a foster kid, and the guy wants to be like a foster parent or whatever, so he takes the kid in, and he asks the kid, like, hey, do you want for me to, keep you here with me? And the kid's like, yeah, man, roller coasters and ice cream, you better believe it. And so he decides to stay. And that's when the man's like the butler or Howard starts to do the experiments. I'm thinking like needles are out because I don't think that you could make a needle be kid friendly.
Let's just have it be like a helmet that has like diodes on it, and it like just examines his brain activity.
Yeah, and I'm thinking maybe he disguises it as like a space helmet in like a space room that they have or something like that.
Yeah. He's like, well, you need to go into cryo sleep and you'll wake up 1,000 years in the future. And then he actually puts him under and just runs these experiments on him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Sufficiently creepy enough for a kid's movie.
Yeah, so he runs these experiments on them. While he's running the experiments, he's in the back room behind the like behind the wall or whatever, like looking in on like video cameras.
Mirror
one side. That's what I was thinking. And he needs to be like a maniacal laugh type thing, like as like lightning is like thing in the background. It's got to be like so campy that it's hilarious that he's the bad guy. That the audience isn't actually creeped out because the person is so over the top villainy.
Right. Okay, so if he's been doing this for a while, Michelle needs to notice that something weird is going on with Emmett. Like, he wakes up one day and, like, his arm by now should have healed, but it hasn't. It's just getting, like, worse. It just remains broken no matter what. And he's, like, feeling weaker over time. It feels like his energy is being drained from him. He just doesn't have the energy to do anything with her, to play games or whatever. So he's just, like, is constantly taking naps all day. So she's like, are you getting enough sleep? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I sleep, like, 12 hours every night. She's like, dang, really? He's like, yeah, but I just always feel so tired. So she decides to, like, have a sleepover with him or something out in, like, the living room. And then in the middle of the night, she could, like, wake up and see that he is being taken away to, like, the astronaut room.
Okay.
Or whatever. And so she, like, unbeknownst to the butler, is sneaking over and like trying to see what's going on. So she needs to spy and see what's happening to Emmett, and then notice that it's the butler who's doing these evil things.
Yeah, so
And
she needs to talk to Emmett about it like the next day, and needs to be like, look, we've got to get out of here. Like the reason why you're getting weaker is because he's doing some sort of thing to you. This is not right. This is not safe anymore. We've got to get out of here.
Yeah, and then like she's interrupted by the butler coming in, and he's like, "Oh, do you kids want some ice cream? I've got a banana fudge ice cream on a special today." And and then like Emmett still like doesn't really quite believe her, because he's like, "Listen, he's done nothing but good things for me here. I love living here. I'm tired all the time, but I think it's just because I'm not getting enough sleep."
Yeah.
And Michelle's like, "No, you gotta fucking listen here. I saw this shit going down." He's like,
Could
"I
also
think you
be
just had a
because I'm
nightmare."
only eating ice cream all day.
Yeah, so she's trying to get him to believe her, but he won't really. He believes that the butler is a good guy and that his living here is just like nothing but fun, and he wants to live here forever. And the butler like kind of senses that something off is going on with Michelle, but he can't really approach her about it exactly. He can't just ask her straight off, like, "Did you see me experimenting on Emmett?"
Yeah, no, yeah. So, well, I feel like something has to happen between Michelle and Howard that really tips off Emmett to realize, wait, you know what? I think Michelle is actually right, and I think that we need to start getting out of here. What is going to be that thing that tips him off? I mean, it has to be either some sort of thing where he tries to do an experiment on Michelle, and the experiments don't actually have really any effects, the first, quite a while, because obviously Emmett is still alive.
Maybe she asks him like, "Hey, can I check out the space room?" And he's like, "I never told you about the space room. How did you find out about that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's in I found like a blueprint of the house or something." Which could actually be true. Like, what if she found a blueprint and she realized that there were rooms that she wasn't aware of, that she and Emmett both have never seen before, and they've got mysterious names.
What if Emmett doesn't know about the space room, and Michelle is like, "Hey, do you want to you want to show me your space room?" And he was like, "What space room? What are you even talking about?" And she was like, "What are you talking about? That's where you go to sleep every night." And he's like, "No, it's not. I go to sleep in my bedroom." And so like she shows him where she found him, in the space room, like the previous night or whatever.
It's like a room hidden behind a bookcase doorway.
Yeah, and he's
so, like they wouldn't normally know about it.
He's like, "What is happening in here?" And he starts to like freak out a little bit. He becomes a little timid, and he's like starts to shiver a little bit. He's like, "Oh my gosh, like this is not something that I've seen before."
Or he can say like, "I've had nightmares about this room.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was real." And then he realizes that something is going on, and he believes her, and he's like, "Oh my God, we have to get out of here." So from this point forward, they need to be hatching their plan and like trying to keep it away from Howard, and trying to steal things and create some sort of way to get out.
That's right.
What they could do is like try various ways of getting out. Like they could go to rooms, like they could be looking for windows, they could be looking for ladders, and no matter how hard they search, they just can't find anything.
Well, I mean, they need to be coy about this, though. They need to like be playing hide and seek with Howard, and like while he's hiding, they're like running around the place looking for places to see if they can escape, and he's totally unknowing because he thinks that he's just playing with these kids. But
then he could find them in some sort of position where it's like, "What were you doing back there?"
Yeah.
When they clearly are looking for like some means of escape. Like they're trying to open a window that's not a real window.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. What is he gonna do to be able to gain the upper hand again after capturing them? Because we have to establish that. I mean, we have to continuously establish that he is in fact the villain without it being like too menacing.
Right. So what he can do is he finds them doing something that they shouldn't be doing. He finds that they've stolen some object that he uses to like get through locked doors. Like he has some sort of electronic key. You know how like Howard has the key ring, and it's got the keys to get out the door. He's got an electronic one, or like a key card, and he scans it in front of a door, and any locked door in this mansion will open for him. So they steal that from him subtly, like maybe while they're playing hide and seek. And then he catches them out in the middle of the night trying to use the car to get into a locked room. And he just shows up in the darkness and he's like, Michelle, what are you doing out here? And she says like, oh, I wanted a ice cream in the middle of the night, but I thought you were sleeping. And he's like, that is not the room to the ice cream. That is the room to the elevator. And she's like, elevator? And then he takes the key card and then he grounds both her and Emmett. And she's like, you can't do that. You're not our parent. And he's like, I am the parent down here. Down here, I am the leader. I don't know, something like that. And grounds them, and he locks the doors to their rooms, and they just can't get out.
Okay.
Except for, like, during the day when he's awake and out.
So what I'm thinking here is I'm thinking that the machinery that he's using has to be similar to the effect, like on a lesser scale of what's going on in Rapunzel. You know how, like the Rapunzel, like she say the mother will like sing that song and it'll reverse the time. To make it so that they're younger. So what I'm thinking is at the very beginning of this movie, the butler is like pretty old. He's like, you know, kind of, but as the movie goes on, he starts to become more and more full of life. Like he starts to get younger and younger. And he, at the beginning of the movie, when they play hide and seek, or play tag or something like that, he was never able to keep up with them. But as the movie goes on, it gets faster and faster and is able to catch the kids and all that stuff. And so it makes him the villain becoming like stronger and stronger throughout the movie, and it like kind of ups the ante for the time of the escape, because I think Michelle needs to realize
He's at his most powerful.
Yeah. Michelle needs to realize this because she needs to realize, hey, look, I got to get out of here soon or Emmett is going to die and he's going to start doing this stuff to me.
Yeah, she is next in line once all of Emmett's life is drained. So maybe she can find his plans. Like he grounds her and Emmett and they're locked in their rooms. And so this is where we can get a really good, cool, resourceful scene where she needs to figure out, she can maybe communicate to Emmett through like some walkie-talkies or something that they have, and they know right now it's the middle of the night, the butler's already gone to bed, and they need to try and get out of these rooms, and they need to try and find some way to get out of here, and it's easier to search when he's asleep. So what can she do to get out of this locked bedroom?
Let's see.
It could be an air duct scenario, because that's from 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
She could take the air duct off the ceiling and then somehow crawl up there.
I'm thinking that and I think that this is where she learns more about his plans, because like she crawls into the air duct. You know, he gets upset at her, obviously locks them both in their rooms, but Emmett's room is not the same as hers, and so maybe she's just like, I want to keep playing with Emmett, or I want to be, to check on Emmett to make sure he's okay. She crawls up into the air duct and she sees, she like looks down and sees the villain having his, maniacal conversation with himself, talking about his plans out in the open. And she also like crawls a little further and then she sees Emmett, who is being strapped into the table. Maybe that's how she finds him in the first place.
Yeah. Well, she can like hear a noise in the air duct, like a little bit further down, and then crawl through and look down and see Emmett in his, space cryosleep chamber where he's being experimented on. Yeah, so while she's hearing the butler there, he can be talking about his plans. He can be creating, I don't know, like a video log, just like a diary of his experiments.
Okay.
And talking about the success rate and everything.
Yeah.
And he's saying, like, if all goes well, Emmett will be completely... Or, like, I will have all of Emmett's life force by the end of June, and then I can start on the girl. And she's like, oh, holy fuck. Oh, my God. Emmett's dying, dude. I'm next. So she knows she can't do anything for the time being because Emmett's just in the cryosleep chamber. She's just up in the air duct. But she knows that this is the route that she can use to get out of her bedroom from then on, if she wants to get out and explore. So she could, like, tell Emmett about this. She says, like, all right, dude, you've only got, like, a couple weeks to live, and then you're going to die, and he's going to have all your energy. That's why he's getting younger. That's why he looks different every single day.
And that's
And then
why
it's like,
you're a
oh, holy
tiny old
shit.
man. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's why you're reverse Benjamin Buttoning.
No, that's why you're getting weaker, and he like starts to realize the memories, the things that she's telling him makes sense, and he's like, oh my god, we have to figure a way out, and that's when they're continuing to look for a place. Ultimately, they have to realize that the only way out is in fact the elevator that they came in on, and so they find their way over to the elevator without Howard, knowing that they're there. And
She shows them the air duct, and they can use that to get to the room with the elevator entrance
yeah,
because they don't have the key card. So that's the only way that they can get to all these rooms they're not supposed to be in.
right. So they crawl their way into the elevator area, and they realize that the key card is the only way that they're going to be able to get in, and it's not just a key card, but they have to do something that makes it so that it's only Howard could actually activate the elevator to go back up.
Yeah, like a passcode or something, and they just don't know it.
Yeah, so it has to be like one of the things where they open up the top of the elevator and they see the long rope that goes way up, and that is the only way to be able to get out. So ultimately, what we need to see here is like a montage scene where Michelle starts to work out on the on the gym equipment for a little while until she gets super ripped, or until she gets she's comfortable climbing the rope that is in the gym well enough to be able to climb out of
Yeah.
this elevator.
So I'm thinking, oh, you know what this reminds me of is the scene in Mulan where she's like
Oh yeah,
climbing up the pole with the like
the
handkerchief
medals.
or whatever it is. Yeah, and like so it's this nice visual indicator of like how close she is to success, and she knows by the time she's able to reach the top of this long rope, she's ready to make her way out. And she tells Emmett, like, listen, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to bring somebody down here who can help us, and they're going to save you and get you out of here before Howard kills you. He's like, all right, I know you can do this. So Emmett's job is basically to distract Howard while she's like constantly working out and like trying to develop the strength to get up all the way the rope. And they think that if Howard finds out about this, he's going to be like ultra pissed off and like know that they're going to escape. But Howard at some point actually figures it out, and he like pushes his way past Emmett and gets into the room. And Michelle, who has just reached the top of the rope, thinks that like, oh shit, we've been caught. Like she's just reached this moment of, I know I can get out of here. But then as soon as she does that and rings the bell at the top, Howard opens the door and she's like, oh my god, this is all over. But Howard is actually excited because he knows that the stronger she gets, the more energy he's able to sap from her.
Right.
So he's actually very pleased with this development.
Yeah, and so
Unbeknownst to the
you
kids.
see like Michelle doesn't see this, but like the audience it sees a little bit later on that night. It shows like him talking into his voice recorder, and he says something to the effect of, "The girl is progressing faster than I imagined. Fortunately, the amount of energy I've been sapping from Emmett is running slim, and so I'm going to quickly finish off Emmett so that I can start sapping the energy of the girl, so that the next day whenever they wake up, Emmett is not around to play, and when she asks Howard, hey, where's Emmett, he'll just be like, oh, his parents came and picked them up, or some lie or whatever, because Emmett must have told her earlier on in the movie that he doesn't have any parents, that he was adopted by the butler.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, well, he should tell Michelle, like, oh, Emmett was, picked up by his parents. And he says, but I've got great news for you. If you choose to do so, you're allowed to live here for another year. Or for as long as you want. And then, like, she's super afraid of saying no. So, of course, she's got to be like, yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. So, like, just to keep up the facade of him thinking that she actually wants to be here.
Okay, sure. And so,
And of course she knows,
is
like, I gotta
this
get out
the
of here
moment-
ASAP.
Is this the moment, like the climactic moment, where she makes her attempt to get out of here, and she says
Yeah.
something to the effect of like, "I'd love some ice cream," and he's like, "Well, let me go get you some. We'll enjoy some ice cream together, just you and me, the way that it was always supposed to be."
Well,
Uh,
let's say that the butler at this point, because he's like Emmett is on his last legs and he's being kept in there in the cryo sleep chamber. The butler is pretty much 24/7 tending to Emmett and trying to sap all the remains of Emmett's life at this point.
yeah.
So Michelle can plan like, all right, I need to get out of here ASAP. I know Emmett obviously is in the sleep tank thing. The butler Howard is constantly surveilling him, and I need to make my way out of here. So yeah, she asks for like some ice cream. She says like, "All right, well, I'm really tired. I think I'm going to hit the hay early, you know." So she goes into her bedroom. Howard like gets a slight suspicion. He's like, "She's not acting like as peppy as she normally does. Something seems off." So she goes into the bedroom. She crawls up in the air duct with if there's anything that she's taking with her to try and make her escape. Maybe something to help her climb the rope easier. Maybe like some chalk powder that she can put on her hands.
Okay, but I'm thinking that Howard has to become wise to her plans to escape.
Right. I want to have a scene where Howard like hears something above him. Like she's frantically crawling through the air ducts trying to make it to the elevator. And so she is crawling above his room where he's recording his voice memo thing. And then he's talking into it, and she thinks like, "Oh, he's talking. I'm just going to crawl by as fast as possible." But he hears something up there, and he like stops talking, and then Michelle stops, and he just looks up towards the air vent, and she's like just barely past it, so she stops for a second. It's a very tense moment. And then he just continues talking into the recorder like, that was strange. And Michelle obviously keeps going and making a run for it. So by the time she gets to the elevator, she drops down from the air vent and starts like trying to figure out a way to get in through these doors without the key card or the passcode. And meanwhile, Howard gets out of his experiment room and walks towards Michelle's bedroom and like knocks on the door and asks her like, "Hey, listen, I know you just had some ice cream, but how about a little midnight snack with your old pal Howard?" And she doesn't respond. So he like knocks again. He's like, "Michelle?" And he can't hear anything. So he takes out his key card and opens the door and pushes the door open. And then he sees that the air vent on the ceiling is just hanging down open, and she's
Yeah.
not in the room anymore.
So he's like, "Oh no, not again!" Or obviously, it probably hasn't happened before, but he's like, "Oh no!" So he, takes off running, like to back to the elevator. Of course, that's probably the first place that he goes to look, and maybe he even sees her like over there. I mean, is this gonna be one of the things where like she tricks him into opening the door so that she can get in to get out, or is it gonna be one of the things where she like steals the card from him and like incapacitates him, or is he not gonna even see her at all?
Yeah, I think that she's got to. She knows she can't get into this elevator without the key card. So what could happen is either he's got to have the key card to get into her room.
Right.
So she's got to set some sort of trap to incapacitate Howard when he comes into the room to
Okay.
try to stop her from using the elevator. So she can take a couple of things with her from her room that she's going to use to set up a trap. And she can put like a tripwire below the door that Howard's going to have to come through before getting to the elevator. So he runs in to try and get her and he trips. And then the key card like flies out of his hand and onto the ground in front of her. And so she grabs it and uses it to open the elevator, and the doors open. And then Howard is like scrambling to get up as fast as he can, and he's running towards her. But then as she's in the elevator, she can like swipe the card again to close the doors. And then he like reaches the elevator just as it closes, or maybe he sticks an arm in and the door like closes on his arm, and it's just like pushing it tighter and tighter, and he's screaming and trying to grab her. But
Oh,
then he
that's
ends
not
up
very
having...
Disney Channel. Come on, man. I'm thinking
No,
if it
no, no,
closes.
I'm not saying like the door crushes his arm, but he has to like he's forced to pull it out before it can crush his arm.
Okay.
So then she's able to ride the elevator up. That, or he like from the outside turns like an emergency shut off switch, and so the elevator isn't able to move. Like the power is shut off. So he's on one side of the door on the inside of the mansion, and she's on the inside of the elevator, and he's screaming at her. He's like, "There's no way you're going to get out of here. You're going to stay down here with me forever.
Forever.
forever. So she's like, oh my God, holy fuck, I need to get out of here. So she knows, like, all right, I've prepared for this. I got to get up on top of the elevator and I got to climb up this rope. So she, like, stands on the handrail on the side of the elevator. She cranks open the security door on the top and pushes it open. She climbs up and out and then grabs the rope and starts pulling herself up. And Howard, meanwhile, is just, like, still there screaming, and he runs off to try and find another way to open this elevator from the outside so he can, you know, pull her back in. And she's climbing up the rope and climbing up the rope. So I'm thinking Howard could, while she's climbing the rope, it's going to take her a while to get up all the way to the top to exit. And Howard, meanwhile, is down in the mansion, and he's, like, going to get his backup key card so that he can open the elevator and just, like, get up there and catch her before she's able to escape. Or he thinks she's still in the elevator. So he goes and gets the key card, and Michelle is, like, 3/4 of the way up this wire by the time she hears the elevator turn back on. She looks down, and, like, the lights in the elevator turn back on. The door opens. Howard walks in. She's able to look down and see the very top of his head. And then he's looking around, and then he looks up and is able to see her holding onto the wire from inside the elevator. And he screams, "Michelle!" And then she just, like, hurries up and keeps climbing as fast as she can.
Which, I mean, we've got to have one of those scenes where he, like, you know, presses the button to make the elevator rise. So she's climbing while the elevator is rising, and the rising elevator is going faster than she is. So, I mean, of course, she's got quite a lead on the elevator, so she has to climb quickly as the elevator is gaining close. You know, we could even have it so that like Howard, he, like, gets up, so, like, half of his body is, like, sticking out the top of the elevator, so he's, like, reaching his arm up, getting ready to grab her leg whenever she gets to the point where she gets to the very top, and she, like,
jumps off the rope.
Yeah, like, jumps off to the rope to grab to the, like, the door, like, pries the doors open and gets out just before the elevator gets there.
Right. And so the elevator doors open, and Howard's running out trying to get her, but Michelle's already opened the door, and she is running across wherever this is. I don't know if it's in, like, the middle of a city or kind of at the edge of a city. And she sees some people and just starts screaming at them, like, "Help! Help!" And so, you know, she's able to get help before Howard is able to reach her.
What if whenever she gets to the very top, the parents are there, and they're like, "Oh, are you ready to come home, sweetheart?"
Yeah, and she's, like, screaming at them, and then Howard, like, from inside that elevator door is just, like, looking at them, and he, like, grumbles to himself and has to get back in the elevator and go down. And Michelle starts screaming at her family, like, "All this shit is going down. You need to get the police. Get the police!"
Yeah.
And so the parents are like, "What the fuck? Okay." So they call the police, and there's, like, a raid on the mansion downstairs, and we don't really need to show that part.
Well,
That
we
doesn't
need to
feel very
show
Disney
that
Channel-y.
Emmett's okay. You know,
Right, we need to show-
he's in the hospital, you know, and, like, the doctor's, like, you know, it says to the kid, like, to the
He's gonna
to
be
the
okay.
family. I'm assuming at the very end here, it's going to be that Michelle's family ends up adopting Emmett, and it turns out what she wanted all along was someone to, you know, spend time with, that like, because she was lonely, being it with just her parents, and Emmett was that person for her. So the parents end up adopting Emmett so that she can have. So that their family can be whole, so that they can, like, all be happy together.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I mean, this is just a smidge darker than I wanted it to be, but I think that, I mean, for the most part, it works pretty well. I mean, the ultimate, you know, moral of this story is going to be, like, you know, family is what's important kind of thing, you know, and believe in your own strength because you are more capable of doing things than you. I mean, because you know, like, the campy Disney stories tend to have, like, the pretty obvious morals and tend to.
Oh yeah. They tend to all be like, "Oh, stay with your family. They're the best. Family is always there for you."
Yeah.
It's
Just
either
believe
that
in
or,
yourself,
like,
and you can accomplish anything. Well, because I'm trying to
yeah.
picture, like, I mean, do you remember the old 90 or, like, early 2000s Disney movie Brink? Do you remember this?
No, I don't. What was that about?
Brink was like a rollerblading movie. I get confused between, like, the ABC Family original movies and the Disney movies. So kind of what I was picturing from Disney movies was, like, the old Motocross. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh yeah, I did.
basically both of those movies are very similar in that they are two people who are pretty good at their sport, but they don't know that they're going to be good enough to be able to win the championship. And so the moral of the story is, like, you got to believe in yourself and you can do anything, kind of thing. And that's kind of, is parallel to the moral of this story, being like, believe in your own strength, you can do it, kind of thing.
Right. I was thinking of, did you ever see the Disney Channel movie Smart House?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of like a trapped
similar.
kind of scene. I thought we were going to totally go in a different direction with this podcast. I thought we were going to go with a Bubble Boy type thing. But I was thinking, like, there was a Bubble Boy type movie that came out last year. It was called Everything, Everything. And, like, the ideas that I was thinking of as I was watching through the movie again, I was like, I feel like the only thing I can think of is this movie. So glad we went in a different direction on it. But this works out great.
I'm glad.
I'm excited for this to come into the Disney Channel coming up this summer.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to talking about it on our next episode of Mike's Super Short Show.
Oh my gosh. I think you've referenced that before on this podcast.
I have. I'm always thinking about Mike's Super Short Show.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, definitely leave us a review on iTunes. That really helps us out, as well as share this with your friends. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, as we're going to start posting a little bit more this year, posting about upcoming stuff so you can stay up to date on the next podcasts that we're going to be doing. Just a little sneak peek at the next podcast we're going to be doing. If you're a fan of Adam Sandler movies or you're a fan of Christopher Nolan's Memento, the next genre flip we're going to be doing is Memento as an Adam Sandler film.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so that'll be pretty fun. So definitely come on back again next Friday to enjoy that podcast with us. And thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks all of you guys for listening. We appreciate it.